Welcome to this video involving problem number 12 from the proof packet. In this video we will discuss how we can go through and write up a comprehensive proof for problem number 12. Initially, the first thing we want to do is label the picture with the given information. The first given item is that angle FEH in the bottom left is supplementary to angle EHG in the top left. Now, we don't really have a nice way to mark or denote that those angles are supplementary, but we are just going to make a couple markings there, and we'll remember that those are not that the angles are congruent, but that they are supplementary. Similarly, we know that angle EFG in the bottom right is going to be supplementary to angle FGH in the top right. So at this point, what we have is these two orange angles on the left will add up to 180 degrees when we sum their measures. And the two angles on the right, their measures also add up to 180 degrees. Now we have a few pairs of congruent angles as well. Specifically, we know that angles EHF and EGF are congruent. Those have been colored in blue on the picture. And angles FHG as well as EGH are congruent as well. Those have been colored in purple in the picture. And finally, we have a pair of angles that we want to establish as congruent. And what we want to prove is that angle FEH, that entire angle on the bottom left, is congruent to angle EFG, that entire angle on the bottom right. So now, why does this seem like the result should be true? Well, we know the two orange angles have to add up to be 180 degrees. Additionally, we know the two red angles have to add up to be 180 degrees. We will be able to establish that the top left angle and the top right angle are going to be congruent because the top left angle is a blue and a purple, the top right angle is a blue and a purple, hence the top left and the top right have to be congruent. Well, if the two oranges add up to 180 and the two reds add up to 180 and the top orange is congruent to the top red, then it will work out that the bottom orange has to be congruent to the bottom red. So with that notion in mind, let's begin writing up our two-column proof. Let's just begin with the givens. So first, let's translate this information into the proof. We have a couple angles that are indicated as supplementary. That means their measures must add up to 180 degrees. So we know that the measure of angle FEH plus the measure of angle EHG must be 180 degrees, as well as the measure of angle EFG plus the measure of angle FGH must be 180 degrees, and that would be the definition of supplementary angles. Next in our proof, we've had a couple pair of angles that we know are congruent, and in order to work with those in equations, we have to change it from the angles being congruent to their measures being equal. So at this point, we also have the measure of angle EHF is equal to the measure of angle EGF, and the measure of angle FHG is equal to the measure of angle EGH. There are a few different paths we could take in this proof as far as the order in which we do things. But for right now, let's look at the proof statement. The proof statement does not have a 180 in it anywhere. So if we look back to step 2, we have that each of these two equations are equal to 180 degrees on the right-hand side of the proof. Well, if that's the case, then the two left-hand sides must be equal to each other. So we will have the measure of angle FEH plus the measure of angle EHG will be equal to the left-hand side of the other equation, the measure of angle EFG plus the measure of angle FGH. The two right-hand sides are equal, means the entire left-hand sides are equal. That is our transitive property of equations. So here's where we're at. We want to end up with the measure of angle FEH is equal to the measure of angle EFG in order to have that angle FEH is congruent to angle EFG. That means ideally we would like to get rid of the measure of angle EHG and the measure of angle FGH. Looking back into the picture, that means we want to establish that the top left angle in measure is equal to the top right angle in measure. And we've already indicated that that is going to be true. So in order to accomplish that, in statement number 5, we are going to take the part plus the part equals the whole thing. Now we have to be consistent with the naming. So this in the top left is angle FHG plus we have this blue angle that will be named as EHF. Those two angles will add up in measure to be that entire top left angle, and that entire top left angle is the measure of angle EHG. Now let's do the same thing for the top right, and let's align things accordingly. So we will have the measure of angle EGH. We want to be consistent with the naming there. The measure of angle EGH plus the blue angle will be the measure of angle EGF. And those two angles in measure add up to be the measure of that entire angle, which is the measure of angle FGH. Part plus part equals the whole. That would be our angle addition postulate. Keep an eye on where we want to end up. We wanted to end up with FEH and EFG are going to be congruent. In order to do that, we needed to have EHG and FGH cancel. And in order to do that, we really want to end up with the right-hand sides of the two equations in statement 5 are being equal. How can we make that happen? Well, look back to statement 3. We're going to be able to rewrite the measure of angle EGF as the measure of angle EHF, and we will be able to rewrite the measure of angle EGH as the measure of angle FHG. Since those two items came from the same step, we will allow them to be substituted at the same time. But let's initially rewrite the first equation the exact same way that it was written initially. The measure of angle FHG plus the measure of angle EHF is equal to that entire measure of angle EHG. And now we're substituting in this second equation. So we'll have the measure of angle FHG, that was the one substitution, plus the measure of angle EHF, that's the second substitution, is equal to the measure of angle FGH. Overall, that was substitution, and it was based on statement 3. So now let's scroll down here a little bit. Where we're at in the proof, notice the two left-hand sides of statement 6 are exactly the same. Symbol for symbol, letter for letter, the two left-hand sides are exactly the same. Hence, in statement number 7, we will be able to say that the two right-hand sides must be equal. The measure of angle EHG must be equal to the measure of angle FGH. And that is our transitive property. Since the two left-hand sides were exactly the same, the two right-hand sides must be exactly the same as well. Well, now we want to look back to our statement number 4. And in our statement number 4, we wanted to make one little change. We are now capable of making that change. So let's rewrite statement number 4. The measure of angle FEH plus the measure of angle EHG is equal to the measure of angle EFG plus, and now here is where our handy substitution comes into play. In place of FGH, we will write the measure of angle EHG. And that was simply substitution. Now for statement number 9, look what we can do. The EHG, those can subtract off and cancel. When we do that, we will be left with the measure of angle FEH is equal to the measure of angle EFG. And that was just a subtraction. And that's really close to where we wanted to end up, except we need one more step. In step 10, we are just going to change it from measures being equal to the angles themselves being congruent. And how do we know that if two angles have equal measures, the angles are congruent? Well, that would be the definition of congruent angles. And at that point, we have established exactly what we wanted to show, that angle FEH is congruent to angle EFG.